Hello, welcome. I'm Sang Kwan. I'm Chief Editorial Advisor to A Plus U, and I'm delighted to welcome here today for our lecture presentation by Go Hasegawa, who was a guest editor for our June issue subtitled House Looking into the World, an issue that Go organized with the selection of 5 other contemporary practices together with his on addressing a similar set of values and issues concerning domesticity and the relationship between the house and the world in a rapidly changing, quickly changing world around us. This is also an opportunity for us to hear from Go a little bit about his own practice. Of course, we have the January of 2017 issue that came out now 4.5 years ago. It's a little bit hard to believe that it's been this long. So we're delighted to bring to hear perhaps an update of what some of the projects perhaps covered in this issue, but also on the work on the projects he's been working since in this interim. So the format of today's session will consist of two parts. The first will be a lecture presentation by Go on his projects. And then in the second part, there will be a discussion. I'll have some questions for Go concerning the more recent issue, the House Looking into the World issue, on his ideas in conceptualizing this volume and the selection criteria and the kind of values and lessons that he was hoping that we will take away from this issue. There is, of course, as always, a Q&A function on this site, on this streaming site. We'll be following the questions coming from all of you, and well, I'll try my best to insert them into this conversation in the second half of today's session, this discussion with Go. So without further ado, let's start with Go's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. There's only 2 people in this room, but I hope lots of people is watching this online lecture. So I started my practice on 2005, so already more than 16 years passed. And I started my practice in a small residential house in Tokyo or near Tokyo. And recently my project is, it's non-residential project sometimes, and also some projects in abroad. It's a little bit now changing. But yeah, this issue A plus U is mainly focused on recent residential project. This lecture today, online lecture today, in addition to the project which is published on A plus U, I would like to show a new project which is now in progress, which is not published yet. So something exciting also for me. So I start. Is it shared? Okay, so the title of the lecture is Consciousness of Roots. And this is also the statement on my part on A plus U. In my office, in the process in my office, I always develop a project with model and sketches and discussion with my staff. And I always ask to the staff, is this idea is really rooted in many times? And it's really important to check whether if this project is rooted or not. But it's still it's a little bit abstract. Also, it's kind of open as a concept. What is roots and what is rooted? I would like to explain and show through the 7-8 projects. First thing is villa beside the lake, which is completed in the last year. It's a relatively bigger house. It's like 340 square meter in total. It's a private house for one family. But the client he owns a company and he wanted to invite a lot of guests in his home, especially on the garden because his hobby is making a barbecue. So he wanted to have a big garden to invite the guests. As the title of the name, the project, the villa beside the lake, it's located just beside the lake. Actually, it's part of the park, public park, so it's facing to the promenade of the park. But yeah, it's 20 meters from the lake. What we, after a lot of study, of course, what we made the decision is, okay, let's not to throw away any soil on the construction process. So on the process of the construction, to make a foundation, basically, even if it's a tiny house, we need to dig on the ground. And most of the case, we need to throw away to anywhere. But because this site is also located, it's a part of a low mountain, almost like a hill. I think it's nice to keep the soil in the site. So this is a sort of limitation of this sort of rule in the process. But instead of to make a sort of hill in outside outside of the house, we decided to make a sort of soil cylinder in the center of the house, like this. In the center of the house, there's a circle courtyard, but it's almost like a huge cylinder. It's almost 25-meter diameter. And also many room spaces around the courtyard is following to the topography. It's connected between the slopes between them. That's why the height of the cylinder is always changing, as you see in this section. And this is a model. So roof is made with the timber structure. This is very funny picture. Even if it's the foundation, they already dig up the soil. It's like something like under construction in the middle. They make a small mountain in the middle of the house. It's very funny contrast between foundation and this soil in the middle. And it's finished, completed. So from the entrance, it looks like a 1.2 meter high as a cylinder, soil cylinder. But from the opposite side, from living room, dining room, it's only 20 centimeters. From the dining space, you can see the view from dining courtyard, circle courtyard, promenade, trees, and the lake over there. So there's a sort of layering of the view in this axis. On the living room, you can sit on the soil cylinder, which is 20 centimeter high. From the kitchen, actually this ceiling is painted white, but because of the reflection of the soil, it's colored. It looks like a beige on the ceiling. It's a color of the soil. From the guest room, it's 1.2 meters high. So when you are sleeping on the floor, it's something like a little bit hidden by the huge cylinder. Also, this workshop space, this height of the cylinder becomes 2 meters. So it's totally like something like a semi-underground floor. So we just make a decision, okay, not to make to throw away the soil, any soil in the construction process. It's very simple, but actually this they are living always besides the soil, let's say, instead of on the floor above the soil. So yeah, the relation between life and the soil, or let's say life and the earth, is totally different from the our house, I would say. And next project is a kind of installation project in Mexico City. It's a Baragan house. So I'll talk about the relationship between nature and the space. The title of the project is a Flying Carpet. As you know, the Baragan house is one of the famous residential projects in the world, I would say, designed by Luis Baragan. It's impressive. I have visited 4 times, and it's like a labyrinth, and always I found something new space in every time. And in front of his house, there's a garden, which is also designed by Baragan, named Jardin 17. And recently, I think it's 4 years ago, it's renovated, refurbished by the Mexican architect Albert Koch. And the Baragan Foundation decided to start a new program. Every year, they invite the young architect and make a sort of a pavilion in this garden, because it's not so famous, even if it's in front of the world famous house. And that's why Baragan Foundation asked me to design something pavilion. And I visited, and I found that it's a very big program, because as you know, the Baragan house, a lot of visitors, tourists is visiting, and hundreds of people visit, and every time every 30 minutes there's a tour. But all the time in front of his house on the street, they are sitting and waiting, which is not beautiful. That's why the Baragan Foundation asked me to make a sort of rest space or waiting space at the garden before the tour. Because there's no space to take a rest at the garden. But on the other hand, that is already a very beautiful garden designed by Baragan. So I couldn't imagine to make a building or pavilion on the garden. That's why I wanted to find a sort of a new way of making a rest space, which is coexisting with the garden. And on the image on the right, which is above the roof terrace of the Baragan house, and the bottom built in a forest from my office. Both of them, I think, are sort of a trial to make a space which is coexist with nature. Okay, I walk around that garden, and which is I found actually it's very nice detail. On the bottom right image, you can see the concrete steps designed by Baragan. But only this part, it's very strange, because as you see the drawing on the left, he designed this garden basically with organic form, and namely I could find a very small, let's say, piazza in the garden, 1, 2, 3. But only this part, I mean, this above right hand, I draw the sketch. This detail of in front of the steps, very strange detail of a straight line and rectangular corner. I mean, so let's say we make a sort of a hypothesis. Probably Baragan might plan to add the 4th piazza in this part. So from here, from this question part, he might supposed to make something here. and we do that. So this is the first sketch we made. Above the bushes, let's make a sort of a space to take a rest, like a picnic. And I measured every plant's height, position, everything. It's very tough to do it by myself. And also, because there's a lot of rainy in Mexico City, Barron Foundation asked me to make this space with, let's say, strong material. And also, yeah, the budget is very limited. So I decided to use galvanized water pipe, which we can find everywhere, I think, also in Mexico City. Also, I expect some sort of a reflection of the metal as you see the ceiling of house in Kyoto from my office. This is the image of the meeting of this project in my office. We always test the many, hundreds of models in the project. And this is the final layout, drawing of this flying carpet. Okay, it's just we just arranged the galvanized water pipe. It's super simple, but somehow we need to find a root between trees, between the bushes, between the plants. And somehow I wanted to make a sort of closer relationship between people and nature, garden. And also on the right above, you can find the image of the Mitola in Mexico. In Mexico, there is this kind of sort of a pattern in history. So this was one of the reference to define the form of this flying carpet. Okay, this is it's completed. So it's a kind of extension from the existing path that it's floating just above the bushes. When you turn right to this flying carpet, you can walking around on the flying carpet above the bushes, and more closer relationship, friendly relationship with existing plants made by Paragon. Actually, there's no root to this bush part. That's why always people need to see just this blue wall, opposite side of the garden. But now they can have a more positive contact with plants and Paragon wall. As you see, you can also sit on the. You can lay down on Paragon's blue wall. Also, this picture, this is a kind of detail of Baragan meeting between Baragan stairway and Go Hasegawa stairway. Okay, we needed to make this space only few days, so we make a sort of unit on the factory and assemble it on the site. And this is an image of the opening. Many people is just walking around. It's like a path that those kids immediately sit on the carpet, so they understand how to use this space more than people. I thought it was very impressive. Okay, so next project is the project now in construction, which is completed in next month. Small project in Hokkaido, Niseko. It's very, very famous area for skiing. I think it's one of the most popular space for the ski people, Niseko. And this is a site. Actually, site is I think it's gigantic. But when I visited for the first time, it's I think it's in December, and we couldn't see anything. But as you see, we found a small river, small stream on the south edge, no, north edge. There's a sort of small cliff which is 5 meters. Small river. Actually, this river stream is coming from the mountain in Niseko, so it's very, very precious, very fresh water, of course. So this how to say zigzag shape on the bottom is a river. So we decided to make a small, long, narrow building just above the cliff. Actually, it's very long, 52 meters, and the roof is only 4 meters. This is plan. Actually, it's we make a very, very long loggia on the river side. So inside is only limited 1.9 meters as a width and 52 meters length. This is a hybrid of the house and the cafe. On the right hand, I think it's a 30% is a small house or owner, and the left hand is a small shop and a cafe. But mainly it's a loggia, which is facing to the riverside. Because of the huge snow in winter, we need to make we need to design the roof, of course. So in order to avoid maintain the big snow, we decided to make this sloped roof, which is facing to the cliff. That's why the snow is always falling down to the cliff and the river. And on the right hand, it's so half of the building is loggia, and the left hand is inside. This is a section. There's a small dining room, which is made with the concrete bench. Actually, this is part of the foundation. And the right hand is a loggia. There's also the concrete bench, which is covered with a big roof above. And the kitchen and the space of the house residential part. Okay, as I explained, it's a snow area. So structural engineer on the right hand, you can find it, Mr. Ono. Structural engineer, I collaborate with him. And he proposed to make this structure of the roof, let's say, reversed beam. So the roof is coming up above the roof, and we put the ceiling below. That's why this repetition of big beams is appeared from outside. This is last winter. After the big snow, I visited. Because the height of the roof is very limited on 1.7 meter. Also, big snow like 1 meter. So this horizontal landscape towards the stream was extremely beautiful. Okay, this is a structure from the river side, and this picture is in I think it's in last month, almost completed. As you see, this roof is following the contour line of the cliff, top of the cliff. So we just follow to the topography. And from this side is a house, and the opposite side is a shop and a cafe. This is the cafe side, so they can walk down to the stream. This picture is, I think it's last week. I'm a bit surprised. In the morning, on the left image, the sunlight is reflecting the morning sun. In the morning, the natural sunlight is reflecting on the grass. That's why the roof is colored with fresh green. And on the right hand, this is an image on 6 p.m. On the west side, from the west side, sun is coming through the building. It's super, super beautiful at the sunset. So always the appearance of the ceiling is changing in every minute. これ、音って何すないのかな Because the sound is very important. I mean, yeah, I prepared the video, and yeah, actually there's a stream on the right bottom, and because of this loggia roof and the grass and the concrete bench, it's the sound of the stream is echoing in this space. I try. You can hear? So something like this. So you can enjoy the lunchtime with hearing the sound of the river. So let's say what I wanted to do in this project is collecting the natural environment in this space. I mean, of course, it's already super beautiful place in Niseko, but we cannot sense more specific. We cannot sense something with specific. I mean, we just say beautiful. That's it. That's why I thought it's important to, let's say, tuning as the natural environment in this site. Also, there's another reason. There's a traffic, a big traffic, in maybe 50 meters away from here. That's why I wanted to make a space for people to make a rest with forgetting the car and the traffic, and just concentrate on enjoying the lunchtime with a friend, with hearing the beautiful sound of the river. Okay, so next project is a guest house on the mountain in Nagano Prefecture, named Roof on the Ridge. This is also very amazing, very amazing site, which is located on the peak of the ridge of the mountain. As you see, you can enjoy the panoramic view of the mountain. You don't see any building. That's amazing. And as you see, this is located on the edge, peak of the street, U-shaped street. And on the peak of that street, there is a site. That's why you can enjoy the almost like 270 degree panoramic view. When I visit for the first time, totally impressed. But in 5 minutes, I got bored. I mean, yeah, it happens in such a place, in beautiful nature, big nature. We always impressed for the first time, but we are used to it immediately. Maybe because the nature is too big compared with our body, or the landscape is too far from here. That's why it's a kind of like a picture, so we cannot keep enjoying the landscape. That's why, of course, I need to say this is very rich environment, but at the same time, I doubt to make just a guest space. with just a glass facade. So rather than to enjoy just a view of the this beautiful panoramic view, I wanted to make a sort of a device to sense the continuity from here and there, right? And we decided actually this is rich environment, but at the same time super tough space, tough place to make a building because buildable area is super limited. So just besides the street, there is very limited flat area, and after that the cliff starts again. So we needed to build very limited space. That's why we designed this, let's say, moon-shaped roof. Looks like a sort of extension of the U-shaped street. This is a sloped roof. It's open to the both landscape on the right hand. That it's made with the massive roof because as you see, and over there you can find the U-shaped street. Always there's a traffic. Every 30 minutes the car is running. That's why the acoustic of this house is very important. I wanted to make a sort of course, relaxing space. That's why how to deal with this sound traffic was the key of the project. Then at the same time, we first tested the concrete roof, but it looked like too hard for such a natural environment. That's why we decided to make this massive timber roof. So we just arrange the massive timber beam next to each other and make a sort of a massive plate just above the concrete foundation and steel frame. And it's finished. From the street side, the height is only 170 centimeter. It's very low. It's almost like an extension of the ground. So this section shows a sort of topography of the cliff. Topography of the ridge of the mountain. And on the peak of the ridge, I made this space. Entering from the street. This image is at the moment of sunlight. The sun is appearing. I think it's 5 a.m. or something. Immediately, the massive timber ceiling is colored in orange, like this. So rather than the landscape, which is very far from here, at the moment of the sunlight, we feel like this is one space from there to here. That is one of the very beautiful moments. This is a plan, very simple. We just followed the contour of the mountain ridge. And on the right hand, you can find the bathtub, which is half come out from the perimeter, you will see. So between the concrete rib, this is also the structure, we set the sofa or a bookshelf and so on. So it's something like a combination of the structure and furniture. Also, I wanted to make, rather than building detail, I somehow tried to make a civil engineering detail, especially on the concrete side. So I tried to make a sort of more direct contact to the nature. This is a bathtub. You will see the opening window on the left hand, and that opening window has a moon-shaped cover of the bathtub. So when it's closed, of course it's closed, but when it's open, this bathtub becomes like a semi-outside bath, like an outside onsen, which is very nice actually. And also, besides the dining table, you can find the reclining window. As you see the man who enjoys wine in the section, he can enjoy the wind coming through the mountain ridge. So such a detail of the like a reclining window, opening window of the bathtub. Somehow I try to emphasize the experience on the ridge. Also, this concrete bench is actually, it's also the foundation. And also I put the water pipe. So yeah, it's a floor. There's also the floor heating, but this bench is also the bench heating. And that's why you can enjoy the time also in the midwinter. Also, thanks to this combination of bench and foundation, as you see, you can have a very close relationship with plants and landscape. Somehow we try to make a sort of continuity from body, plants, topography, and landscape over there, which is a bit different from just a panoramic landscape. Also, I just one slide, which is now we are preparing the construction. This is a very small second room of this house on the ridge. And just below the house, we made a very simple umbrella structure, which have the outside terrace, which has also the fireplace in the center, which will be finishing next year. Okay, I will show more three projects. This is a furniture project, which is collaborated. It's a collaboration project with Maniera. Maniera is a design art gallery in Brussels, and they always collaborate with architects and artists. I made two object product. First is a chair. We call it the seatless chair. Okay, we always start from the research, and we of course we needed to make a research of design furniture, designed by the designer and architects, and as you see, mainly the chair design focus on the seat and the backrest, more or less. But most of the case, they underestimate the legs, I would say. Of course, its function, it's very beautiful, but the legs is just a simple steel, thin things, which people are not conscious about that. Secondly, we started to doubt the role of seat, because the load on the head and upper body can be supported through the hip, especially the ischio. Ischio is a peak point, one of the part of the hip bone, and especially on the ischio, we support our load. So that's why is it really necessary to have a seat? We started to doubt. Third thing is about the front and the back of the chair, because maybe 70% in a day we don't sit on the chair, and when it's not used, we always see the back of the chair because it's set under the desk or table. That's why can we shift this, let's say, front and back relation of the chair? So there's three let's say three roots of the chair. And this is already the sort of our proposal. Okay, let's make a chair with only 3 rings of aluminum by the super simple proposal. So instead of having the surface, we decided to make a furniture chair only with a line element. So instead of to have a seat, we, let's say, insert our ischium between the 3 pipes. So this drawing shows a sort of rather than furniture design, for us, this might be a sort of project which is an extension of our body, extension of our bone. We human beings had originally had the tail, let's say. That's why, yeah, this might be a sort of extension, like a tail. As you can see the dot line, this is a silhouette of ischium. So you insert your hip bone between the 3 pipes. So proportion and angle of 3 pipes is the most important part of this project. We made several mock-ups in both cells and also in Tokyo. Yeah, now we are testing the detail and the color of this chair. Also, I have used this chair for more than 1 year. So every day, more than 8 hours, I sit, and it's okay. Actually, it's nice. I recovered the problem on the back thanks to this chair. This is funny. The right hand, this guy is a Quinten of Maniera. He bring our chair with like this and bring it to the paint shop and made us play. And the next project is a lamp cable lamp. Okay, we started to make a questioning. As it's the same with the chair. Many lamp design is mainly focused on the shape, but electric cable might have been underestimated. It's like an element of function. But is it really okay? And also, as we found the front-back relation of the front-back of the chair. There's the on and off of the lamp. But when it's off, lamp has much less character. So what is the characteristic when it's off? Also, compared with water or fire, we aren't aware of the energy flow of a lamp. We cannot feel the flow of the electricity. It's okay, but can we shift the image of the lamp from this energy flow? And it's very simple. Let's make a lamp only with the cable. So we just pile up, let's say, maybe it's more easier to understand. So we make a cone shape only with the electric cable. Electric cable, we found this transparent coating. That's why this structure, actually it's 30 degree, we can make a cone shape. It needs to be super precise, but somehow we could make an independent structure, just make a cone shape with electric cable. That's why when it's turned off, it looks like a silver object, like a structure. And turn on, you can find a very soft light. Also, we tested the bronze cable, silver cable, which is also nice to see. Okay, so this is the last project I show in today, project in Antwerp. in Belgium, housing in Antwerp. And yeah, I need to say, compared with the project in Tokyo, we have ever thought about the relationship between oldness and newness, because it's located in, and it's next to our site. There's European row houses. The site of this project is north of the center of Antwerp. On the left above, you can find the central Antwerp. So let's say this site is a kind of a boundary between residential area and industrial area. Actually, in front of our site, there's a big factory. But on the back side, there is still the block, housing block. So it's really boundary. So on the right bottom, you can find the housing block, European housing block, and this red part is our site, but in front of that, it's a residential area. So it's really, how to say, ambiguous environment. Actually, so we make a sort of green line. This is, let's say, boundary line. On right bottom, it's a house with a private garden, courtyard, and above left, it's more like a massive volume with open space. Okay, so this is existing row houses, and our block is almost like 200 meter by 50 meter. It's very big block, and half of the block is already built 100, 200 years ago. And we, let's say, complete the half of the block. But yeah, originally they planned, the master plan from the Antwerp city was this red part, just fill and complete the block. But as I explained, this is really ambiguous context between residential area and industrial. And that's why we needed to propose something new, way of new image of the block, let's say. This project is collaborating. We collaborate with Belgian architect Versa. So with Versa, we made this block. So my part is here on the right part. This one-story factory is already demolished, and we will start the construction very soon. So this 4 stories row house is located next to me. Okay, so this is let's say master plan of our block. Instead of to fill the block, we made a sort of independent building. So let's say like a broken block. So half broken, half filled. And that's why this like porous like buildings will make a kind of ambiguous relationship between residential and industrial area. And I designed, my part is this block I and block J on the right hand. And I need to touch to the existing row houses. Uniqueness of this project, especially in my part, is we make a sort of hybrid. We contain both apartment and row house, both of them. And block J is the composition, it's piled up of row house and apartment. And block I is string together row house and apartment. So both of them is a kind of a mix of them, of two typology, but the composition is totally different. This is a section of block J. We set the row house on the ground floor, and we made, actually it takes a long time, already 2 years. We have discussed with Antwerp city, and next month we finally can submit the permission. And Antwerp City asked me to make a sort of positivity to on the ground floor. That's why we set the row house on the ground floor. Also, it's also open to the street and the private garden on the left hand. And the second floor, it's apartment, and third floor plus attic floor is a maisonette type apartment. So the point of this project is a window. As you see on the left hand, this is existing row houses. Almost like width of each row houses is 5 meters, and each row houses have 2 lines of the window, always vertical proportion. And interestingly, each row houses has a different color of the window: green, white, brown, red. And we needed to make, this is a developer project, so we needed to maximize the total floor area. So let's say we needed to make a sort of massive building, but in order to decrease the massive impression, somehow we made a new continuity with existing row houses. And ground floor and first floor is a row house, maisonette type. And we decided to make a vertical window for the row house and horizontal window for the apartment. Both window is completely the same size of the window, but proportion is different. Because I think it's strange to have a different size of the window for the bedroom and for the row house and the apartment. No? So this is a kind of equality between the two typology, but the relationship is different. Also, as a reflection to the existing row house, we made a different color. We decided to give a different color for the row house and the apartment. Bronze color for the row house and the silver window for the apartment on the top. So yeah, because of the big opening also on the street side, street level, it's a very positive relationship to the public space. Also, thanks to this silver window and silver cornice, let's say this is a contemporary cornice, somehow there's a European cornice on the top of the existing row houses. And somehow we made a cornice, but the proportion, material, impression is totally different. We supposed to make it with aluminium. So because of this aluminium window and aluminium cornice, it's a very light impression. So actually, window proportion, cornice, it's very old element in Antwerp, but we just shift the way of using it. And also, thanks to this combination of proportion and color of each windows, we made sort of the light impression in this building. We are now developing the detail of the window and the color and arrangement of the bricks and so on. So that's it. This is a final slide. Okay, I have ever showed the various routes in each project. And I talked in the beginning, always I questioning to myself, to my staff, is this project is really rooted? And but all the time there is some element which is hidden. And to make apparent the things that are right to next to us but have escaped from our notice, so we can sense and imagine a bigger world. So, okay, next to us there was soil, but we always forget the existing soil. No? Something like that. For our process, for our practice, it's really important to be conscious of the roots in every project. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Go, for this fantastic presentation. It's so nice to see all these projects. You've been busy. So I have a few questions prepared, both related to your more recent work and also to this to the issue, to the June issue, House Looking to the World that you worked on for A+U. So I cannot resist, since you came back to this idea of the consciousness of being rooted, and you showed the hut on the ridge project that hopefully is going to start construction soon in Hasegawa. So I have to ask you, this idea of being rooted, of course, is very important, but it totally reminded me, especially with the image of the hut on the ridge, of Shinohara's description of Minka as mushrooms. Minka wa, kinoko de aru. It seems like there's tremendous resonance, similarity between your view, your insistence that houses are being rooted, and Shinohara's idea that minka are like mushrooms. How I understand Shinohara's idea of minka being mushrooms is that not to say that something like the house with an earthen roof kind of formally looks like a mushroom in some ways, and also formally it looks like a minka, traditional farmhouses in rural Japan. I don't think that's what Shinohara Sensei meant by this phrase. I think he meant it by the essence, the true idea of a minka is that it grows out of the specific conditions and circumstances of the place it's located in. It grows out of the soil, it grows out of the specific humidity, it grows out of the specific climatic conditions of the land, and it becomes a form that is completely rooted in the contingencies of its area. It's completely natural. It's not something by some foreign, act of planting, as if you are planting rice, for instance, where it's very kind of you pluck a stalk of rice into the ground. So it's the opposite of rice farming. I wonder how you would, I guess what I'm going with this is you talk about conscious of roots as a way of looking at the world. But at the same time, but if we look at the minka or mushroom idea, it's highly microscopic, it's highly specific, as if you're rejecting the world. Not rejecting, but perhaps forgetting for the time being that there is a world around you and just focus on the specificity of the land itself. So there is some, maybe perhaps, tension between a house being introverted, looking inward, and a house that is looking at the world around it. Does that make sense? Maybe more specific cases. The first house, the villa beside the lake, for instance. The entire visual, spatial experience is introverted. You're looking inside. And you're looking at this mound. It's the house is conditioned, it's built by this mound that conditioned, that provided the basis for the form of the house and for the entire living experience of the house. So what is the world that you're seeing? The world being the earth, the world being...
No, I'm not sure I can answer to your question. Because I don't understand the question. but what I remember is you also mentioned about the Shinohara-san. I remember Domanoye. It's a house on...
Yeah, house with an earthen floor. Domanoye is yes.
Things, and also house designed by Le Corbusier in Ahmedabad. what's the name of
the mill owners. No, the other one. Yeah. The name escapes me right now.
yeah, I visited 2 years ago in Ahmedabad. It was very impressive. But both houses, I didn't see it as a masterpiece in architecture history. I saw it as kind of as something like a contemporary space for me. Maybe because both of the space, I feel like how to say, both of the house is really inside. It's almost like a us, and Shinohara's house. It's I feel like our client is living with many animals together, like I don't know, small insects.
Yeah.
And animals. It can be animals. This how to say, also the producer's house in Ahmedabad is the same. It's really how to say fresh feeling for me. So us is, yeah, I think I need to say it's one of the key of my recent project. But not only like a visual space, like a huge cylinder in the center of the house. Through the soil and earth, we can feel a sort of this, how to say, coexisting with another creatures. This is really, how to say, I'm very interested in it.
Sure.
Because yeah, in any case, the house or especially regency project need to make a private space. We need to cut inside and outside, right? But even if we make it, I think this sense of how can coexist together. This is always difficult, but at the same time, at least with the concept of the us and the roots, I think there's a possibility to find out a new way of bridging for that. Is this answer to your question?
Yeah. Thank you. The next question I think is somewhat related, and I think we can use it as a segue to address the issues in the June issue a little bit, and that has to do with the house versus the city. Because I think in framing and ultimately selecting the projects we will include in this issue, there was some discussion amongst us about whether or not we should include focusing only on single-family dwellings, or we should focus on homes, multiple dwellings, in apartments or hotels or other facilities. But we still, by and large, ultimately, the decision was to favor, to focus on more or less single-family houses. There were a couple of exceptions. The exceptions were Adamo-Fiden, with a series of apartment buildings in Buenos Aires in Argentina. And the other major exception, I think, has nothing to do with housing at all. It has to do, it's a library in China by Vector, by Donggo.
The furniture is from me and the Moss.
Yes, exactly. Those were also the exceptions from this single-family house type. Let's say. So this also has to do with one of the questions that were sent to us by the audience. So how do you reconcile the relationship between houses in extraordinary locations like Karuizawa or the garden in front of Barragan's house or the villa beside the lake, and these very tight urban cosmopolitan environments? You've also built a number of urban projects, including the one you just showed in Antwerp. So how do you, this idea of you from the house looking into the world, which is the theme of this issue, of the June issue, how do you reconcile the typological differences between the house on the one hand, the single-family house versus collective units, collective house?
Difference.
Mm-hmm.
Lot of difference, of course. I mean, all the time. Also, I have ever designed several apartments in center of Tokyo, and now from I think in the next year we start to build this ample of housing.
Mm-hmm.
All the time, the aim is the quality of collecting. How to live together, right? Mm-hmm. Because we need to live with other people in case of apartment. But rather than solution of the privacy between them, I want to optimize what is a positivity to live with other people. That is really always key in an apartment in Nerima, apartment in Okachimachi, also in this case. So how to connect and how we can make a kind of part of the block with the facade and windows in our project. This is also how to be together, right? So that is a very big difference from the residential small houses, I think.
Yeah.
And maybe we had better to talk a little bit about this issue because we want to sell this thing. Okay, so April, you asked me to make a sort of I made a guest editor of this issue, and relatively compared with another Japanese architect, before the COVID I travel around, and that's why I had the opportunity to visit the many practices, especially in the same generation in the world, in North America, South America, Europe, Asia, everywhere. And of course, everybody has a different taste and different interests as well. But sometimes I found a sort of a similarity, and I feel sympathy to some practices. And but again, all of them is totally different.
Yeah.
But one of the similarities, let's say, they are really quietly somehow try to make a conversation with each places. So Tokyo, London, Beijing, New York, Buenos Aires, and Barcelona. Each place each has a different character, of course, but their practice is really rooted in each places. That is, I think, it's very interesting. That's why from each places we can find the characteristic of the place as well, not only architect's taste. That is very interesting. That's why I consciously choose the place of the architects in all over the world. Two from America, two from Asia, two from Europe, let's say. I'm very formalist in such a way. That's why maybe people can enjoy the characteristic, of course, density of the city, maybe privacy of each city, way of living in each city, oldness and newness in each city. It's really different, right? Townhouse in London from 6A and super chaotic area in Buenos Aires from Adam Fine. It's totally different, right? That's super interesting to see in this issue. What I was talking.
About just how this issue came about. That's exactly right.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how people see this issue, and I'm looking forward to the reaction from the audience.
All of you.
Yes. trial, but each practice is really rooted in each places. I think it was interesting to make it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it was very enjoyable to work on it together with you. So thank you. So we have two questions actually concern your use of models, and as you showed in the flying carpet.
The question is coming. Okay.
Yeah, I've been following them. Two of the questions actually brought up the issue of models. And we saw, we saw pictures of your staff, presenting a large number of study models for flying carpet and for everything else. And the question, I guess, is, and I'll add my own twist to how to ask this question. That question, of course, is how do you use models in your design process? And my question, my follow-up question to that is, is also the issue of construction of building, because oftentimes you have very precise and intentional devices in terms of how things are supposed to be constructed. Especially if we think of the Kyoto house with these enormous steel plates that are lifted into place, and with the massive timber structure in the house image in Kamizawa. So when you make these home core, whatever models in the office, what happens in your mind?
What happens?
Yeah, how do you go from these study models to, are you already thinking of how things are supposed to be built? How do you, how does design development happen after these models?
Maybe the question is how I do the bridge from the basic design to the detailed design. Let's say.
Right.
Maybe one of the answer can be the collaboration with the structural engineer. I think you as a specialist of the Japanese architects, I know. But one of the characteristics of the Japanese architect is closer relationship with the structural engineer. Shinohara-san is a little bit different.
But all of his concrete buildings are by Kimura Sensei.
Yes. Yeah, true. But especially, after Kimura Sensei, I would say, structural engineering is really important role in Japanese contemporary architecture. And I do the collaboration with Mr. Ono-san. So I have many friends like Moss or Florian from Soil. And the collaboration between architect and engineer is totally different. After the design, the engineer calculate, let's say, and they need to change. It's really different, and because Florian has experience in Sana, he is very frustrating about that. But in case of me, and I think it's the same with other Japanese architects, from the beginning, we already start to discuss with the structural engineer how to build. Not just a physical structure of the idea. We always start how to build in such a condition, such a places. That's why even in a basic model, basic design, very super abstract model, always I imagine the sense of gravity of the space in each idea. That's why the existence of the structural engineer changed the imagination of the design process of Japanese architects.
Terrific. I think this is also a perfect place to stop.
Okay.
It's been 75 minutes, so I think it's time to let you go. I thank you again for this terrific lecture and your contribution to the June issue, and thank you all for joining us today, and also for sending your questions. I hope to see you again.
Check it, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.